Welcome back to the 1700 turn, 5 p.m. They're playing Great Battles of the American Civil War. 3 days of Gettysburg, Deluxe, and it's Longstreet's assault. So where we're at, doing a quick summary here after these first 5 chits: Hood, Artillery Reserve for the Confederates, Artillery Reserve for the Union, Birney, and Barnes. So pretty even in terms of the chit draw, Confederates coming out first, and then the Union being able to respond. So how does that translate into action? Well, let's take a look. Let's go over to the map itself, and I'll give you a rundown of what happened. So here we're looking at the larger map. I try to zoom in here a little bit and angle you a little bit over here to start. To start, as I said, Hood kicked off the activations with continuing the attack over here. He had to kind of redress the lines a little bit. Law did push back these the sharpshooters again and move forward, but it was very slow because he was right next to him, so they had to try to push them back through shock attack. And then we have Benning over here, who pushed back the 4th Maine, which is now right here. And then we had the rest of Benning's moving up and pushing back these units over here, the rest of Ward's units back up here, along with Robertson moving up here again to get back into the attack. He's got 3 good brigades. His regiments. His other regiment here was did not recover, unfortunately. So he's trying to get back into the fight here as well. Anderson's over here, kind of on his own, but Robinson's kind of trying to come up through Rose's Woods. He pushed back de Trobriand's units over here, and now they're sitting in this particular setup. So they did make some progress, but they only had 1 activation. So the next activation, as I showed you, was later on a Birney chit. So Birney was able to kind of stabilize his line. Some of these units were disordered and pushed back. Some of them are already collapsed, like that unit right there. But Birney was able to jog over here, help recover these units. Ward came over here and helped the 4th Maine right over here. The 3rd Maine came back over. Even though it's disordered, it's trying to get back over with the rest of the units to form up in the Valley of Death to try to hold off the units over here as well. Also significant for the Union was that one of Barnes' chits came out, and Barnes, of course, is over here with Vincent, and then also over in here with Schweitzer. So they've come up and formed a line here in front of Little Round Top. In fact, Vincent, the 44th New York of Vincent, was actually able to get up, take some shots over here at Law, and actually cause a step loss and a disorder, which got both the units. So that's going to hold up Law, but Law was able to disorder the 16th Michigan of Vincent's brigade over there. The sharpshooters are still holding out. They're going to peel off here because now we've got Schweitzer's units over here. If Schweitzer can hold, this could be a pretty strong area, but Schweitzer is a little bit brittle, so we'll see how they do. Also, too, by him coming up over here and also Tilton, the 3rd Brigade under Barnes, they came over here. That means that this whole center area by the wheat field has no reserves coming into it yet. All right, that may change because we do have more 5th Corps coming in with Webb under Ayres, and we also have released Caldwell's brigade of the 2nd Corps, which can start moving down here as well. So the Union is getting a little bit of a jump on the Confederates before they can get their activations going. Now, what's changed here a little bit, and this is why I kind of held it up at this point to give you a summary, is if we look back at the chits, you notice there's 1 chit off to the side. This is the next one coming up. So Hood is coming back with a 2nd activation at this moment. So with that, what that means is that Hood can now renew his attack over here. So Ward's units are still kind of spread out. So potentially Benning, Robertson can eventually drive through here. Law Law has his work cut out for him. I'm not sure if he's going to be able to break through now, but there's 2 brigades in front of him. But he will make some sort of attempt, maybe to hit Schweitzer over here, and try to push them back. It's going to be tough, but we'll see. Or they may go directly after Vincent. Anderson is, hitting over here. McLaw's is in the cup. Now we'll see what he can do once he gets up here. He may drift, much like what happened in real battle. Crenshaw may have to drift towards the wheat field, and Semmes too over the wheat field. That means that Barksdale and Wolford are going to have to hit the peach orchard all by themselves, but they'll have potential help from Anderson's unit over in here as well. So interesting little dynamic setting up, slightly different than history, but very plausible in terms of how things have come up. If Schweitzer, if Barnes had a little bit more dynamics to his orders, and potentially if Warren, who was up here, had sent 2 messengers, one down to Vincent, who was coming up here, who ultimately did get over there in historical context. But if he sent another one down Taneytown Road and caught Schweitzer and told Schweitzer, hey, we need help, Schweitzer could have come down the Taneytown Road, potentially helped out over there as well. So very plausible in terms of the battle itself. The one thing that I'm slightly concerned about with the randomness is the fact that what we saw with the chit draw, one Confederate chit coming out and then a string of Unions, another Confederate chit coming out, maybe another string of Union, just how that mix is going to go to give that initial push. Is that going to give the initial push to the Confederates, or are the Union going to be able to plug gaps because it's only a 1 or 2 chit activation, and it's really just activating one division at a time, as opposed to having McLaw's and Hood, as well as Anderson hitting there as well. So it'll be interesting to see how this plays out with everything. So with that said, I'm going to move on to the next set of activations. Like I said, Hood's going to be up for a second activation. Go along, see how it looks, and after half a dozen or so, we'll come back and talk about some more. Okay, we're back with another set of activations done. This is Longstreet's engagement for the 5 p.m. turn. Longstreet's assault, McLaw's engagement for the 5 p.m. turn. So where we pick up here is McLaw's, Chit, followed by Ayers, McLaw's, then Barnes, Ayers, and then Humphreys. Once again, we've got a little bit of a tilt in terms of the chits going to the Union with 4-2 for this particular round. But 2 of them were McLaw's on here. And there was also a Hood chit up here that activated in here as well. So, but still, it's pushing towards the Union, getting a little bit more activations than the Confederates for this particular turn. So, with that being said, let's take a look at what happened with the map. So here we are back at the map, and you can see up here with Hood pushing a little bit forward, engaging in a sharp firefight right in here with Vincent's units. And we'll zoom in here a little bit so you can see this and tilt you backwards and in there. There we go. You can see Vincent's units here. You can see Schweitzer has moved up over here to fill in the saddle between Big and Little Round Top. Law is in a tough position because now he faces a 2-to-1 situation with his brigade against 2 Union brigades. So that's going to be a little bit tricky for him. Actually, he's up there. There we go. And like I said, engaged in a sharp firefight. Both disordered each other, back and forth with it. And no real casualties, or actually just 1 casualty apiece, but kind of shooting back and forth. Benning has come up here, again, pushing back on the 4th Maine up here. 4th Maine is kind of holding out. Ward has actually come over here to rally him and he was able to get him rallied. They do have only 1 a.m., so they're not going to be able to do anything. So Benning's going to have a good push against him. Robertson over here pushing against the rest of Ward. Birney has shifted over here as part of his movement from last segment. But Robinson has pushed up here, taking some shots at them, and really trying to get over here. Anderson is pushing up here. One problem. There we go. Come on, stay in there. One problem here that occurred was Anderson attacked over here. There's the 17th Maine and 5th Michigan, I believe. No, it was this one right here. Let's see. Yeah. I think it was 3rd Michigan. And their attack failed, and they retreated. And the top unit, which was the 8th Georgia, routed, and it was disordered, second disorder, and then routed, and they completely took off. So that's going to hurt Anderson a little bit here, but I think he's still got enough punching power to work. Bigger thing was McLaw's has moved up, and you see Kershaw is attacking down here to the southern end, and I got to tip you down so you can actually see it. There we go. We've got Kershaw attacking over here. They formed a line 1 hex way from the batteries, trying to shoot at them and push back units of de Trobrand over here, which they were successful with finally. They drove back the 17th Maine and the 3rd Michigan, as well as the 5th Michigan, moved back over here as well. So they've moved up and taken some shots at the artillery. Artillery shot back, very ineffective artillery. Kershaw's moved up here, taken some shots here, but they have disordered both here and here, so they're going to have to recover before they can get in a good shock attack. Semmes has also moved up to get some support to Kershaw, but at the same time, from the Union perspective, Burling was able to move up, and now he has infantry in with the guns right there. So they are supporting them. Now the Confederate guns are going to be ineffective because they're within 2 hexes. The Confederates are within 2 hexes of their position. So the Confederates are going to have to charge in with infantry there. Now, one thing I was noticing that has developed, which you may try to exploit here, is right between Robertson and Anderson, the wheat field, there's a little bit of a gap here, only being covered by Winslow's guns. So it may shift Anderson this way. We may push Robertson up here to lock in the rest of Ward's troops and try to exploit this gap and turn the flank in through here. If that happens, that will be a big blow for the Confederates to pour through this gap. Union will have to commit something. Now you can see there's not much reserves back here. We just have a little bit from Burling over here. And then we do have some more back here in the form of Tilton's brigade from the 5th Corps. So they could commit over here, or Tilton could get out of the way, and Ayres could pour through this gap to close that off. We'll have to see how that plays out with the next set of activations, because pretty much the Union, looking at the activations, they're kind of played out for the turn with their reinforcements and where they're positioned. So the rest is going to be mostly Confederates. We do have some of the 2nd Corps coming in. We do have 1 a.m. for them, and we do have some artillery reserve AMs to play out. But the rest of it's going to be Confederates. So the Confederates have a little bit of advantage for the end of the turn here. They may be able to get around, but again, we've got to watch that fatigue to make sure that they don't go too far into fatigue with that. So that's the latest update. Stay tuned for the next one. Okay, here we have our next update for the turn. Where we left off was right here. Basically been going in blocks of about 6 or so. We had activations for Birney, Ayres, artillery, Union Artillery Reserve, Cadwell, Hood, and the Artillery Reserve. All right, so again, favoring the Union in terms of activations for this turn, but some advances have been made. So let's take a look at that. Move back over to here. And we'll take a look at Hood, activated at the end of the turn. Now, just before that, we had Ayers kind of move up here a little bit. Didn't quite move up to here yet. Waiting for things to develop here in the middle, which we'll talk about in a second. Law basically held off for this turn, getting rid of a out of command marker. Be able to use his last AF. His fatigue's at 0, so or it's at OK, so he'll go to 0 with that. Benning over here did activate, drove back 4th Maine in this spot right here, actually collapsed their unit, and Ward had to take steps back with him. Unfortunately, Benning got hit, and he is his unit under here. This is the 20th Georgia. They were disordered, so they're going to have to try to recover on the next activation. 15th Georgia moved up over here. We also got the 2nd Georgia over here. 17th Georgia came across from the top of Devil's Den and pushed against the 99th Pennsylvania, first taking shots at them, which inflicted damage on both sides. 99th PA disordered. These 17th Georgia actually took a step loss. Then they charged them in shock attack, but the 99th, being disordered, tried to retreat before shock, failed, and then failed again and routed. So they were able to advance into here. So they're pushing right into the side of Ward's units. Birney is up here trying to hold the line while Ward is over here. Ward is probably going to have to come back, take command of this, but Birney's going to have to get over here because there's a big developing situation on his other side, as you can see. Robertson, meantime, took some shots over here, took some shots over here, then charged both Birney, the units here under Birney, 20th Indiana, and the 86th New York fell back. Same thing for the 40th New York. Fell back because it was just too overpowering. They were going to get hit on the side and everything there too. So they advanced up. Robertson's unit's 3rd Arkansas actually disordered, so they stayed back. Hood was in the middle of the fight trying to stabilize the line. Next activation, he's going to have to pull back to make sure command is still has integrity there. Lastly, we have George Anderson's units over here pushing forward. 9th Georgia moved up. Could only move 1 hex just because of the nature of the terrain. Couldn't get up to support, but the 99th Pennsylvania pushed up over here, pushed back 5th Michigan. 5th Michigan's kind of in trouble. They're collapsed over here. That forced Winslow to retreat. Otherwise, he was going to be shock attacked. These guys had to refuse. That's the 17th Maine and 3rd Michigan to try to hold this line over here to hold off. Burling is somewhat of a reserve over here. He could come over here, but I don't think he has any more activations this particular turn. Yeah, I don't think he's going to be available. So Anderson may get around here. Same thing with Robertson over here to try to push back. You can see to the north, if I swing you in that direction, there we go. You can see Cadwell's division of Cross, Kelly, Zook, and Brook started coming across Seminary Ridge to set up in a position to support here if need be. Now, in the immediate scheme of things, that's good. The big scheme of things, it could be bad because this is going to leave a gap right back here. I'll show you more in a second when I zoom out, but there's going to be a gap back here in that section that could be exploited by Robert Anderson's 3rd Corps units that are going to come into the attack. Let's see what else we have. Said some artillery shots, nothing really significant there. Talked about Ayers and talked about Birney over there. Yeah, so that's about where we are. The attack by Hood making progress, but slowing down a little bit. The firing on both sides has been not that great. Lots of low ammos, lots of low numbers, lots of disorders, and then subsequent recoveries with everything. But Confederates are taking more losses than expected as part of this. But shouldn't say it's unexpected, but it feels like it in terms of the attack, especially with one of the bigger units routing in the attack and having some problems. So let's move on to the last quarter of chits and finish off the. Okay, so we're on to the last quarter of chits out here. Came out like this. Particularly, Confederates had the last bit of chits here. McLaw's, Confederate artillery, Union artillery, McLaw's, Hood, and then Birney to wrap it up here. It's the tail end of the turn, so a lot of these units are getting pretty beat up. Either head activations because they're lost activations because they were out of command, or they were at a point where fatigue was going to start to become a factor. So they did not do a lot. Now McLaw's did have 2 activations here and did try to do a couple of things here, but we'll see here what happened here in a second with him. So let's go over the map. And here we are at the map, and let's just reposition here just a little bit to come down with McLaw's. I'm going to start with him, talk about what transpired down here. Now McLaw's, if you remember from the prior video here, had moved up into here and here, but was disordered and was going to try to tackle Graham's stack here, as well as the 105th Pennsylvania over here. Well, didn't work out that well. The initial fire, well, this knocked back the Union under here in the McLaw's. That's the 3rd South Carolina Battalion, and so much so that they actually got wrecked. They lost 3 steps, basically 150 men, and had to retreat. Same thing over here with the 3rd South Carolina. They lost a couple, subsequently rallied, but they had to push back. Over here with the 8th North Carolina, Kershaw, they've suffered a couple of losses, step losses. Semmes has had to come up and fill the gap over here, but he's taken some losses, mainly from the artillery. The Gilvery's batteries up here, as well as Ames's battery here, have poured fire into the attack here. Now, unfortunately, they haven't been able to close. Semmes and Kershaw haven't been able to close. This attack failed here, so this caused them some trepidation and did not go forward. Over here, they've moved up, pushed back Trobrand into the line here, but Burling has come up and held the line over here. Now, we still have 59th Georgia hanging out over here on their flank. They are refused over here. They're hanging out on the flank here. They couldn't move up because with Anderson, he was out of command, so he lost an activation. So he could not activate his 4th activation over there. So they were kind of stuck. If they hadn't been activated, they may have rolled to this line over here and maybe pushed in towards Burling's hex over here and done some damage and freed that up a little bit. But right now they're standing pretty good. We've got the 5th Michigan, who fell back into the woods over here between Trossel and Whitegert Farm. They're wrecked. We still have Winslow, who's moved back out of the wheat field over here. Now the Confederates do have a couple of the wheat field hexes, and they do control a couple of the peach orchard hexes. So they are making some progress, but it's tough. They're taking a lot of casualties, and the Union, more importantly, the Union is firming up their line, particularly right here on here. Now, moving down the line, this gap, there's still a gap in here. Robertson over here has tried to move up to attack, but this has been slow going because the 4th Texas right here could only was disordered, or no, excuse me, they had low ammo, so they didn't move up to attack. Robertson did take some shots over here, but it was ineffective. Hood moved up to here to position for next turn, but we did have 5th Texas come back in to provide reserve for the attacking units. 3rd Arkansas back in good shape. They'll join the attack over here as well. Benning, after his attack up here, has done nothing, so not to get fatigue. Is that good, that bad? Hard to say. I mean, pushing on for one more activation to try to knock out Ward or maybe hit into Vincent would be good, but they would then take fatigue, and that hurts. So they're going to be stuck with probably just 2 activations for at least the next turn or 2. We may start to go into that 1 level as the game goes on. But you can see that's going to cause a problem because up here we have Barnes's brigade, particularly Vincent and Schweitzer, really coming online right in the Plum Run Valley, as well as the saddle over here between the round tops. That's going to make it tough for Law. Law didn't really do anything this last activation either because there wasn't anything really interesting for them to do. They could have pushed back skirmishers, but they chose not to. They could have taken some shots over here, but with the lines firming up, I think it's best to just have them sit back and wait for the next turn to try to hit into Vincent and push back the skirmishers, because they're going to have a tough battle against 2 brigades up over the hill over there. Meanwhile, from the artillery perspective, we can see down here we've got some of Hood's artillery moving up, Latham and Riley. They're going to try to come up here to provide some fire onto the summit of Round Top, in back here potentially, maybe in through here as well, but they can provide some supporting fire into that point. We've got over here McLaw's guns positioning to put fire in here if need be. They can definitely hit into there, and definitely over into this area right now. The other guns back here with Alexander, we're going to have to start concentrating on this line over here, because we are going to get Barksdale and Wolford coming in this next turn. Now, I still haven't moved them up, and I may do that right now with you on camera. They have 1 free activation to start the march up over here. I've kind of laid out where I want them to go. We'll have Barksdale coming here. We'll have Wolford coming over here, trying to push the other end of the peach orchard and hit the apex of the Union line right in here. Hopefully that'll free up Kershaw and Semmes to go over the top and break through that artillery line back there. From the Union perspective, they're going to get some more that get activated this next turn. Just taking a look here real quick. As we go to the 6 p.m. turn, we're going to see from the middle perspective here, on the 3rd Corps, we're going to see Carr and Brewster become activated. Okay, over in here. So they will be on, because we'll have these, like I said, Barksdale and Wolford coming in. We'll also have Anderson will come in this turn as well. Let me just move you over here so you can see that. So you can see we've got Anderson's units coming over here, Wilcox, Lang, Wright, and then further down Posey and Mahone. Try to come in. They will be activating. They'll have lesser activations, but they will be able to get moving there as well. So there's going to be a fight developing over here, hopefully pushing that flank. 2nd Corps is positioned in reserve, just to the east. We'll come back up here. There's 2nd Corps. So it's going to be turning out to be an interesting fight all along. Despite having Hood slowing down, he is getting into a point where he can strike at Little Round Top. but it's going to be tough for him to potentially get in there. I'm thinking right now with the way the reinforcements have come in here. Maybe it'll get into the wheat field and the peach orchard, which is part of the victory condition, or else we need to get either back here cemetery ridge or little round top for the victory. So there we have it. We're at the end of the 5 p.m. turn, 1700. We move along to 6 p.m. and kind of go from there. Oh, yes, one last thing. I've got to move up Barksdale and Wolford. So let's do that right now, really quick. This is going to be a free activation. Now, the tricky part here is with that activation. Well, let's get Wolford up here first. We'll go 1, 2. Well, actually, I need to look something up for this. So we'll end it here and then go on from there.